No, there isn't.
Come inside and have a nice cup of tea.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Massive thanks to the subscribers and anyone that likes the videos or comments on the videos. Anyone that sort of takes part in discussions or conversations on there, really appreciate it. That's what it's all about. If you're just passing by and you found this by accident, then please have a look around the channel, and if you like what I do, please subscribe. This is a book tag. So this is a book tag I haven't been tagged in, and actually I wanted to do a book tag, and I just thought at some point someone must have done a book tag about tea. Oh, tea is amazing. Tea is absolutely one of the pleasures in my life. It really is. I can't say how much I love tea. So I wanted to do a tea tag. And there is this thing, the afternoon tea book tag. So I'll talk about the tag a little bit more in a second, but I just want to say that for me, my favourite tea is Tetley tea. So I'm not sponsored by Tetley or anything, but I've got to be honest. And to me, this is like the best of all the tea bags. I absolutely love it to death. So clearly, this is one of the varieties of black tea. There's lots of fruit tea you can have and stuff, but I still think it's better than Yorkshire tea, Thai food tea, PG tips. Well, I just think Tetley's the best. So I really love tea, Tetley tea. And I'm drinking tea at the minute. This is a kind of typical mug I might have had. So mugs that have got some reference to a film or music, or sometimes I get mugs in festivals. So there might be a festival name on it, or it might be like a comic book thing like this. So I do like this mug. But my mug at work is Groot. So I've got a Groot mug. I wanted to talk about this before I get into the tag, because I love this, and this is a rare moment to talk about it. This is one of my favourite gifts I've ever had. So a couple of years ago, I was in hospital, and it was all a bit of a scary time. And I got tons and tons of gifts from friends, and I had hundreds and hundreds of messages on Facebook and private messages. It was an amazing kind of life affirming thing, as much as scary thing. And one of my friends blew me away by this package that he sent. I wasn't expecting anything, and my mate and his wife sent this package, and it was full of biscuits and tea bags and stuff like that. But it also had this amazing mug that he'd made himself. So this mug here, I'll just show you the mug. Hopefully there's no glare. Absolutely amazing. He's made this because I have never performed with Kermit the Frog, but the idea is glorious. So this mug is kind of suggesting that we've both performed together, duetted at the Newport Folk Festival. So he's taken a picture. I think I'm with my son in the normal photo, but he's taken it out. He's photoshopped it. So I'm playing with Kermit. How amazing is that? Because you probably know, if you're a follower of the channel, how much I love the Muppets. And I just love this mug so much. What a lovely gift to give me. I absolutely love this. So I wanted to just talk about that, because let's face it, this is the opportunity to talk about it. I'm not going to talk. It's not like a favourite mugs book tag. So yeah, there we go. So the afternoon tea book tag. And the idea is that all of these prompts are based around like a classic English afternoon tea. So it's like an 11's kind of thing you might find offered in a small pub in a small town, and it's like a classic kind of English thing, or British thing, I guess. Maybe I shouldn't have said English thing, more of a British thing maybe. So it was, I don't know who created it, but I found it on a channel called Lils Vintage World. Lils Vintage World. She didn't create it, but that's how I found it. So I'll link her channel below, and she did a really cool video when she talks about her books that are from these prompts. But there's 8 prompts, and then I'll follow up that by tagging a few people as well. So the first prompt, a book that you find comfort in. I'm going to move to the side a little bit so I can put some images up. A book that you find comfort in. For this, I'm actually going to go with the series of books called The Far Side by Gary Larson. So for me, comfort is de-stressing you after a bad day. Moments when you've got pretty much a blank like loads of headspace, and you just want to be entertained, or you just want something to kind of make you smile, or something that's not too heavy. There's all sorts of reasons why the Far Side books tick a lot of boxes, and they're really funny, they're really insightful, they are really creative, so some of it's really inventive as well as being quite observational, but some of it's quite mad. But it's all very familiar as well, because I've had these books for a long time, and I've got all of his books, Gary Larson books, and so I've been collecting them since I was a teenager, and I've got all of them, and I just love them. Doesn't matter how many times I read them, they still make me laugh, and they still make me smile. So I'm going with The Far Side for the first prompt, book that you find comfort in. So I'm just doing the whole series. The second one is based around a prompt from Scones. So Scones is one of the aspects of the afternoon tea, and it's something hearty. So a big book, a big but delicious book, big but delicious book. That's the idea. So actually, I'm going to twist it a little bit, and because I found it hard to think of a delicious big book. So a lot of the big books I thought of, I found it hard to describe them as delicious. So what I'm going with is a book series, which is quite long. So that's the Chronicles of St. Mary's by Jodie Taylor. And these books, I think, are delicious. They're fun. They're funny. They're interesting. They're always building on what happened before. Sometimes in ways that don't always work, to be fair, but most of the time in a way that always works. And I couldn't get enough of them when I read the first 4 or 5. And then I started doing BookTube and doing more book challenges and stuff like that. So I'm a bit slower now. I'm on book 8. And it's such a long series that Jodie Taylor's also followed up with 3 books in another series that's like a sideline series. They're still about the same universe, but from a different perspective. So the main books, the main Chronicles of St. Mary's, are about these time travellers. They are history students that work in this university, and they go back in time to chronicle historical events properly. And then obviously things go wrong, and relationships develop, and it's all quite funny, but also very dramatic. And there's a villain going through the whole thing as well. There's like a thread of someone who's trying to get in the way of what they're trying to do. And within that, as it develops, you get the time police who are trying to sort out the mess that these historians are making. And Jodie Taylor's actually followed these books, these 11 books, with 3 time police based books. So there are quite a lot of books involved in the Chronicles of St. Mary's by Jodie Taylor, and I think they're really good. So that's the prompt for number 2. For the number 3, that's Clotted Cream. So Clotted Cream, often with the scones, very much a part of the afternoon tea. And it says a book that you didn't like at first, and then ended up loving it. So clearly the person who created this tag didn't like Clotted Cream at first, and then really loves it. I love Clotted Cream. But what I've gone for this is a book that took a while to get going for me, and literally about 100 pages in, I wasn't still locked in, and then I ended up really loving it, which was Joe Abercrombie's The Blade Itself. So I still need to read the other 2, and I will do at some point, I don't know when, but I have to get there soon because I'm going to forget the plot. But there wasn't actually that much plot, which is part of the reason why it took so long to get going. But it's a really good book, I think. It's really well written, really interesting, quite different, as you've probably heard, because people talk about it a lot, and sets up a world quite well, and a few kind of principal characters, point of view characters quite well as well. So I'm using that for the 3rd prompt. The 4th prompt is finger sandwiches. They are these tiny thin sandwiches, and you just think, just make a sandwich, make a proper sandwich of a full piece of bread. And it's a book that you like, but it's not quite satisfying. So I'm going to go with a book I was disappointed by. So it's a classic book. It's a very revered book. It's a book that's got a very big place in science fiction, the annals of science fiction Hall of Fame, all that sort of stuff. But I was disappointed. I didn't like it that much. And that's Ringworld by Larry Niven. So I love the idea. And as it was going, I thought, yes, it's cool. But there was something empty about it. And the characterization wasn't very good. It was almost like the stuff that you hear about the way some of the old science fiction is written, that the ideas are good, but there's not a lot else going on. And that's definitely true for Ringworld, I think. For me, it was a bit... a bit of a hard slog, because once once they got onto the Ringworld, I think it just lost its way a bit. But it's a nice concept, but I wasn't really into it. So I'm going with Larry Niven Ringworld, controversially. So number 5 is jam. So you always want your jam in your scone as well. And this is a favourite pair of characters, sort of clearly jammed together. Favourite pair of characters that are very sweet together. So I like that kind of way of creating that prompt. That's quite clever. And I had to think about this a lot because I couldn't think of lots of examples of pairs of characters. And I've already done one before when I mentioned a really predictable pair. But this is what I'm going for, which I've mentioned a couple times, but not that many. I think I can do it again. And that's the boy, Ezra, and the tiger, the robot tiger that's looking after him, Pounce, in Day Zero. So Day Zero, See Robert Cargill, I really like that book, and I really like the original book because Day Zero is a prequel, and I like the original book as well, Sea of Rust. But in Day Zero in particular, it's about those two characters pretty much for the whole book. So I really love that book and I love their relationship, so I'm going with that. Prompt number 6 is based around petit fours. So petit fours is a very traditional thing, and these are like small cakes. So you can have different kinds of cakes, but the style of how they're made, very small, sweet things you have after the dinner, after the tea. And that is a favourite short book, novella, or short story. So I'm going with The Life Cycle of Software Objects by Ted Chiang. I think I have talked about this story before, and I can't recommend it enough. It's such a wonderful story. But at some point, I'm going to do my 10 favourite short stories, because I haven't done that yet, and I've been planning to do that for ages. And that is definitely going to be in there. It's such a wonderful story. It's set around a company that makes what are they called, like Tamagotchi or something like that. Those sort of virtual pets, and basically they're having financial trouble. They're probably going to close down the whole operation, and they need to keep themselves alive. And somebody wants to buy the virtual pets, which are kind of sentient, to do things with them, and there's this whole dilemma about what they should do to keep the company afloat, or what they do with the pets that are alive already. And it's just so brilliant because it changes direction a few times, and they have to make these decisions, and they also end up thinking about whether or not they should consult the actual pets themselves. And it's just a wonderful story that really makes you think, just like all the other stories in the collection. Exhalation by Ted Chiang. Okay. And then prompt number 7 is based around strawberries and cream. And strawberries and cream, it's a dynamic duo. So I promise you this is the last time I talk about this book. I think I've done this a few times. It's such a great book. I need to read his other books. I've got one other book by him after reading this. And I'm talking about Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. And I'm talking about Ike and Buddy Lee. And it's interesting because I did struggle to think of a duo in a story that would work as a definition of a dynamic duo. And actually these are two crime solvers, but they are not crime solvers in a traditional sense. They are not working together willingly. They are not whiter than white heroes. It's a very complex book. It's fantastic, and I couldn't recommend it enough. If you're into contemporary crime stuff, definitely read it. If you're into random stuff, it's not necessarily crime that you're after, but you're after good characterization, good storytelling, good world building, and some contemporary issues being tackled, like race, homophobia, and poverty, 3 biggies being tackled in this book so brilliantly, then read Razorblade Tears and look at that story of Ike and Buddy Lee trying to figure out what happened to their sons. So both their sons were killed, they're murdered, and it's about why they were murdered. So brilliant stuff. And then prompt number 8 is based around favourite teacup, which clearly for me is that one, isn't it? Although I don't use it to drink out of because I don't want to get it ruined. So A beautiful character, too beautiful for this world. So again, I read a lot of dark stuff. I read a lot of grey characters that aren't quite white to the white, and if they are, they're probably kids that are minor characters or something like that. But actually, I did find an example of a book with a central character that's totally endearing. You absolutely fall in love with the character, and you're really rooting for her all the way through the story, and she goes through all sorts of things in the story. You probably know the story, but I think it's a nice little reminder if you haven't read it for a while, or if you haven't read it, it's definitely worth reading. It's such a brilliant, beautiful book, and that's The Colour Purple by Alice Walker. So Celie, the main character, is just a phenomenal character, and it's just such a beautifully written book. It really is, really powerful, and I couldn't praise it enough. Such a brilliant book. You probably read it. Comment below, actually, if you have read it. I'd love to know what you think of it, and if you think it's as good as people say. I just think it's one of the classics that have really affected me. So sometimes I read a classic and I see, yeah, I can appreciate why it's a classic, but it didn't particularly move me. That really moved me all the way through it. I thought it was so powerful. So I'm going with Alice Walker's Colour Purple for that one. So to tag some people, right, let's have a think about this. I'm going to tag some people that might enjoy doing this. Michael Romeo Talks Books. Ollie from Criminoli. Jax from Spread Book Joy. Courtney from Tangible Reads. Aaron Facer. Jess from Bad is Rad. Al from Big Al's Hard Books and Classics. Mark from Book Time with Elvis. I think that's probably enough. That's tons of people. So, yeah, there we go. Those are the ones I'm tagging. I quite like that. That's quite a nice little tag. And again, thanks for watching. See you next time.